What episode is it?
213.
213.
It's Alex!
Well, it's another episode of You from 202, episode 213. And now all four of us back together, all in one big happy family, after a away loss, our second away loss of the season at Charlotte. I almost said Columbus just because I have CLT on my fucking mind now all week, and see it's 2/3 of CLB, because apparently the Charlotte Hornets never existed and haven't been using CHA for decades, or the Bobcats for that matter. But anyway,
why would you
You have to-
default to your airport?
You have to, yeah. You
why
have
would
to
you
go
do
by.
that?
You have to go by your airport code, like it's a good cafe press page kind of city.
right,
You have
axe
to-
throwing city
Yeah,
behavior.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
good old LGA,
Right.
EWR, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we're JFK territory.
Well, we're EWR because of
Oh, we are.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yes. That's
That definitely. And I guess city doesn't have an airport. There's no, maybe they're
Westchester County Airport.
or
What is,
Stewart. What is that, Stewart or whatever?
I don't know.
Anyway, just vamos CLT. Let's go to the CLT, folks. Let's have a good old time down in the CLT. Sam, that's what you did this last weekend.
Yeah, I was our field correspondent.
Right.
In the dirty South. I went to visit a friend and told him about the game, and then he was like, all right, I gotta get tickets. So we went with a little crew, and so of course he didn't know any better. He actually has gone to 2 Red Bulls games. He
Right.
went to the 2015 playoff game against Columbus,
Nice.
which is a pretty tragic game to go to. That's like the BWP off the post, or a bong off the post. Sean
Right.
Wright Phillips premature celebration, Eastern Conference Finals moment.
Yeah.
And then he also went to a separate game. I don't remember what it was, but
I think I remember that.
we were in the South Ward, I think, because it was him and his wife Mary, and so he, I think, just took that as like, oh, this is like a great experience, so I'm gonna do the Charlotte version of that, and then he sat us right next to the supporters group, supporter section.
So you got to scope it out, though.
I did. I got to scope out the Mint City Collective, and I don't know if they have multiple or if it's just that one. But yeah, they just have a lot of people singing the same thing. They had
You got to see the blue, the mighty black and blue.
the Mighty Black and Blue.
Was that a song? I
think
didn't
so.
remember that.
I
from the
remember them
broadcast.
doing something about colors.
They had I think they had song cards. They had like numbers for which
Nice.
songs to play.
Yeah.
There's like one capo, like one perch, and they put up like these big number cards like every time they change songs.
Ooh, that's throwing me back to a controversy. Well, I don't know, affair of yesteryear. I can't remember what, but I remember there was a big thing online where some song card was making the rounds, and everyone on the internet was making fun of it because it was like
Wasn't it
corny
Wasn't
and
it
American.
NYC? Wasn't that the origin of the like we don't give a crud thing?
That was Atlanta
Oh, okay.
for sure. No, it was definitely
It might have
Atlanta.
been both.
Who did the "We Don't Give a Crud" like
Yeah.
on a piece of paper? So I think they Atlanta walked so Charlotte could run with their song cards.
City had some kind of cringe printout too, though.
There were multiple.
Yeah.
It was sort of the fight and win era where it was real popular to make fun of. But now look at us. Here I am, and I say, you know what? Go and fight and win, Seattle. Might as well.
Let's go.
Let's go. I mean, look, I'm between a rock and a hard place here, because on the one hand, as consistent viewers, listeners, whatever, may know, we hold Charlotte in low regard. So part of me doesn't want to hear too much about the goings on. But a larger part of me just kind of wants to replay our episode a couple weeks ago for the match portion of this episode, because it kind of feels like the similar thing. So I think I'm forced maybe to at least hear from on the ground stuff, because it seemed, I don't know.
Yeah, we can just talk vibes.
Yeah,
That's fine.
because also like with the national, it was the national broadcast. So Kanji and
was it?
Ale Moreno.
Ugh.
Yeah, and
I
Kanji had a
imagine that
funny.
was as fun as it sounds.
Well, it's weird. It's funny when Kanji's on a call with not Shep. It's different, but predictably similar in some ways. But one funny thing is he kept on calling Moreno Ali. Not, I don't know if Moreno tells English speakers to pronounce it that way or not, or if he said it's fine, but not Ale, or Ali. Like, I don't know.
I feel like that might be kind of like how he pronounces it himself, but
Okay.
he's also a weirdo.
I was like,
so.
that could be a
Moreno.
thing, but it just like time over time, I was like, God, it just doesn't seem right. I don't know.
There's a real buddy energy on the broadcast.
Because Moreno,
Yeah.
I mean, that's why Moreno sucks, because he forces
Yeah.
the shit out of it. He's like the annoying guy at the like cafeteria table.
Right.
You're not allowed to like tell to leave or whatever.
The one thing that I apologize for accidentally leading us down this path, but while we're here, the one thing that he could have been much worse at is that on the penalty check, he was saying, "Oh yeah, that's not a penalty," and he said this multiple times, like, to be clear, I would have done the exact same thing Fletcher did.
He
That's
said
a
it, like,
normal thing.
6 times.
But
like,
in contrast to like Shep, who would be like, that's a disgusting
disgrace
act.
to the game.
He should be taken out behind the building and
Yeah.
shot. You know, like
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is a little bit different. Like
Right.
at least Moreno's like, yeah, sometimes as a striker, you just anticipate the feeling, and that's what it's like to
Right.
play soccer in the last 20 years. You
Yeah.
know? So I was like, okay, very low bar superseded there. But other than that, it's just like, God, I heard so much about how epic and cool Charlotte is, but I mean, it seemed fine. I don't know.
So I didn't hear any of that on TV, and I didn't feel like the experience was too bad. Like, they did some corny shit in the beginning of the game. They have like this video montage of like For the Crown, and they have like a bunch of like, it's like Game of Thrones like inspired like cutscene with like some queen, and then like all these like silhouettes of like Charlotte players in their uniforms, and it was like really corny.
what queen do they think they're fighting for?
I don't know. No idea.
Was
why
there
wasn't it like
Queen
Queen Elizabeth
Charlotte,
or
or
whatever?
is
When
it-
It was
they were-
named after like, right? Charlotte, I suppose.
Was there a queen? Probably she wasn't queen proper, but okay, I'm gonna look this up while we're talking. But it is an odd vibe to me. I wonder when the queen whenever the queen dies in the next couple of weeks, maybe in between the time of this episode and release, Charlotte's gonna put out a big, Rangers-esque like in memoriam thing.
from the Queen City too.
They're the ones that are going to
Really
break the
queen.
news. They break the press embargo that she's died first.
I just hope that it happens when I'm
on
gonna
the big screen in the
I'm gonna be
stadium.
in Ireland at the end of the month, which, by the way, I'm gonna miss an episode or two while I'm over there. So I just hope it happens when I'm over there, because that'll make for some fun. It's so much worse. It's so much worse than what we're thinking.
Is it the Queen? Is it the Queen of Denmark or something?
Close. Before Charlotte was chartered in 1768 by the Colonial Assembly, settlers called the area Charlottetown after Queen Charlotte Sophia of Mecklenburg-Strelitz.
Oh man!
Wow.
Okay, so I guess it was the wife of King George III. So a German queen, not even. Ugh, they should just call it. They should have gone the Cincinnati route and been like, oh, Charlottenburg 94 SC or something, or
Yeah.
like some random number. But Charlottenburg 22. God, that's funny.
I thought it might be. There's a lot of counties that rep themselves as like Scottish around Charlotte.
Yeah.
And I thought it maybe would have been that, but man, like I guess it makes sense that like some of the monarchs of those little German states, made their way over to be like, icons or whatever. But
Right. That
wouldn't
is.
have guessed that.
I was joking about the Rangers comparison, but this is pretty Rangers behavior.
Yeah.
when I think about it. But and it was in the NFL stadium, right?
Yeah, which is turf, right?
Probably, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thrown off a little bit because they were watering the turf, but I think you just do that on hot days.
Yeah.
That's like a normal thing.
Yeah. Because I think, it's just I think you just water, even when it's raining, they'll water the grass just to like slick it down before a game, unless it's like torrential. But yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of like stadium experience, I mean, it was fine. Like, I like, so the only other time I've been into a football stadium, well, I guess there's 2 times, football stadiums for soccer games. I guess, does RFK count? It's a mixed use stadium.
Oh, I'm going to say
More baseball than anything, right? Didn't they used to play baseball there?
it was one of the old multi-use.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's different enough where, I don't know, maybe it half counts.
Half counts?
Yeah, RFK kind of looked different from a lot of the multi-purposes anyway.
But also they I mean, obviously DC's stands weren't permanent in any sort of way, but it's been so long since football was played there.
Right,
that, like,
yeah. It became a soccer stadium.
Yeah.
Mainly because it was so shitty and no one else wanted it.
The last team that played there, I'm pretty sure, was actually the Nationals for a year or two. Before
Oh,
it
that's
became
right.
DC.
Yeah, you're right.
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 Yeah. But yeah, okay.
Wow. Yeah, that, and then Gillette. It's the only other one.
Yeah.
And it really just like, it just emphasizes how shitty Gillette Stadium is.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
like it's really fucking bad. I mean, I think I don't know. I thought we all kind of felt that way just in general. It's like a pretty bad stadium, like
I've
bad
still never
experience.
been. So I've always been curious, like whether, because I don't even know how Gillette fares compared to other NFL stadiums.
You feel
know?
far away, especially
Yeah.
in the corner where they put you in Gillette, where they put the away fans. And then I've never been inside the Charlotte Stadium. I actually tagged one of their parking signs on it, outside of it, when I was there a couple months ago.
Legend, fucking mad lad. He
Yeah,
actually
fucking,
did it.
yeah, Bosch. But fucking, it does. I think it has this reputation, and I can kind of tell from TV that it looks like one of the more kind of like condensed bowl kind of stadiums where it doesn't, you feel pretty close even if you're
At Charlotte?
a little bit far back. Yeah.
Yeah, especially in the lower bowl. I mean, the upper bowl, they closed off the upper bowl, so it was empty for the game.
Right.
They're already behind Atlanta on that.
Yeah, cool. Because they were all talking to the people I went with. They were like, "Oh, they set an attendance record, didn't they?" And I was like, "Oh, that doesn't last." But, it is cool enough. But yeah, in the lower bowl, we sat in like the upper part of the lower bowl behind the supporters, and it was decent sight lines, way better than what I feel like we get at Gillette. For the away support.
we also have like that roof over that like really impedes, I think, sightlines where we are in Gillette.
And
But
it makes it feel like you're looking through like a slot or whatever, rather than like seeing the whole proscenium or whatever.
and I'll say though, the last time I was at Gillette, the concessions were actually pretty good.
Oh yeah, so the concessions were like from. I didn't really get anything it was pretty mid. Like the fries were pretty stale. They had
It was like generic, like Delaware North style.
Yeah. They had these like food little like marts or markets that you could like walk into and like grab some things. But
Gillette has that now
We
too.
were mentioning that, and I think I forgot to mention this when we were last talking about it, that BBVA, Dynamo Stadium, I think is renovated to have these as well. I think it's the latest thing. In fact, I'm
It's
sort
the
of...
latest in stadium food
I feel like
technology.
RBA has taken some small steps toward that.
They have
but I
the
would
beer things. Yeah.
Which actually I have to say was pretty quick the couple times I've used it. So
Yeah,
it might be coming to
definitely.
RBA though. It's I've seen it in a couple MLS stadiums.
they didn't have the beer kiosk situation there. They just had a bunch of people. It felt like a football or even a baseball game. They just had people with the big buckets, right? Like the
Hawkers running up and down the steps.
And then like everybody just like instead of right before the game, they all flooded down at the entranceways and we're selling there. So it was like easy access, but just different. But I don't know. Facility was like pretty clean. Like the little atriums like underneath the seats. Like I don't know. It felt just a little more open, especially more than like I don't know. I don't really like MetLife. Not a huge fan.
Yeah,
of,
I've
like,
seen
the interior.
I've seen a soccer game there. I saw a USA game there, like right after it opened, and it felt like, not the same as like an actual soccer stadium.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to put my put it into detail, but it's just like you do kind of feel like they're just kind of shoehorning it in.
I feel like it feels compounded by the
structure.
fact that the Panthers feel like one of the more NFL teams
Generic,
to me.
yeah.
I mean, they've been good a couple different times. I still don't really have a strong association of that team or really Charlotte, really in general beyond our jokes.
And my friend didn't like his Kyle and his friends said the same thing. They're like, nobody cares right now. It's almost like a similar situation to like when the Falcons were kind of shitty when Atlanta became like a thing. And I think that he was saying that similar sort of energy in Charlotte with people just kind of gravitating toward the soccer team now that like I don't know, people weren't too passionate about the Bobcats or
That makes sense.
Panthers. So
Meanwhile, we've got
Hornets, right? Sorry.
Well, I
Right?
guess the
What are
Hornets. It was the Hornets, and then they left, and then they got a new team called the Bobcats,
But
and then
they've
they
been
became the
shit
Hornets
entire
again.
time.
Yeah.
Because they're owned by MJ.
Meanwhile, here in New York, we've got like our two baseball teams are like the best in the league, and then one of our hockey teams. I don't know. Maybe did they lose? Did they win? They're almost in the finals.
Rangers lost. Yeah.
Okay.
they're out.
Well, anyway, we just like have too many teams to fucking keep track of over here. And then we've got a basketball team that's like good, but no one respects anyway. So I just don't really relate, like kind of a different kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
But geez, I don't know. It was it hot? It looked kind of.
Oh, it was really hot.
Okay.
Okay. It hasn't like there's been like one day where it's hit above 90 here so far.
Yeah.
It was like it got. I think it was like low 90s and we were in the sun. There's no shade.
Oh, really? Like, did it say that like on thermometer, like on your phone or something? Because like I think on TV they were saying, oh, it's only like 84, 85.
Did not feel like that.
Yeah.
Also, you could see
If anything, the real feel was definitely in the 90s, especially
Yeah.
like in the sun.
it's humid there too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like everybody was sweating. And we were standing the whole time. Like a lot of people in the stadium were just standing.
Do you think it affected the way that we played the Heat?
Yeah. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, a lot of things were pretty obvious on the field that I think we all kind of agree on. And Cork, you've written about to, some extent in the match recap, where, the first 20 minutes, you could see the team just like fucking people up, like fucking up Charlotte, and looking really good. And I think you saw the energy wane a little bit. I mean, into half, and then it just seemed off. Everything seemed off in the into the second half. But like, definitely felt like it warranted hydration breaks, and you could see the lethargy over time. But yeah, in the stands, it was pretty brutal. So
I think you could also just on TV, you could tell that there was absolutely zero cloud cover at any point.
there's maybe
that's
like
going to be building
the
up.
field was shining. Like,
yeah.
Which in that way, it looked like a college football experience, just because I associate big, giant bowl stadiums and like just baking heat as just a college football type thing.
Yeah, really,
more than anything.
Nailed it then.
And if it's turf, it's even hotter on the
Right.
field.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you could see the players struggling a little bit. But yeah, I think into each of those different breaks, the team faded a little. But the couple things that stood out on the field, I think that probably looked just as good on TV was the Luquinhas weaving through three people.
Mm.
Yeah, that was nuts.
That looked really cool in person too. And then the goal looked just as like shitty. The deflection, like equally disappointing for me to see, not for anybody else around me. And then the Fletcher dive, you could see it. It was in the opposite end of the field from where we were, but it was like pretty obvious even just in that moment.
Honestly, you could see it in real time on the broadcast.
I was surprised
yeah.
it was given in the first place, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, them calling the penalty and it going to VAR and it getting called off really took the momentum out, I thought, of Fletcher Sales. Really impacted the game. Campaign against Red Bull.
I mean, just not to go off on a sidebar, but like, people have gotten kind of used to it and conditioned to it the last few years, but VAR still does chop up games pretty hard. It takes way too long to
It
do that
doesn't need
sometimes.
to.
When he was waiting
yeah.
for the judgment to come in over his ear, and on the broadcast they're talking about how it's centralized all in one spot, kind of like how all the other leagues have done
Why
it.
does it take 90 seconds? Like,
Right.
yeah.
I kind of assumed that they were just going to tell him a judgment there. I don't understand why they need to take their time and then tell him, oh yeah, go look at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, since it's weird that you can see him, like, it's not like
It's weird that they play what he's looking at on TV at the same
and
time,
you can tell
which I
it's,
guess
like,
is
looking
cool,
from a
but
distance,
also like, yeah.
and you're like, oh, it's not that much more info. I can kind of see it, and then like, you know, and maybe I'm just conditioned from, you know, in the NFL. I don't know if they still do this, but they used to have a little thing where like they had a little tent where like they put their head and like really look at it. But he's just like standing there looking at a screen from 3 feet away in baking sun, and people can kind of walk up to him and yell at him.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
exactly.
This doesn't really feel
And
delicious.
now you watch the actual screen that the referee is watching on your screen on the television.
Right. And now
Yeah.
it kind of feels like that scene in Spaceballs where they just kind of like watch each other on the TV, then get it like goes recursive like 8 times. Yeah, it's just like, but yeah, why can't the guy just on the other end of the phone just be like, yeah, no,
This is the call. This is it. Just done.
And I guess once you take it back, you kind of have to give a yellow to Fletcher, but if he didn't give the penalty in the first place, solid chance that no yellow is given, and they're just kind of like, yeah, whatever, jog on. Because yeah, I mean, he was just anticipating contact that didn't happen. I mean, yeah, we've covered that already.
What did the the replay of the Klimala random, you know, goalkeeper collision look like? Because people in the stadium and the players in Charlotte were like pretty irate when he was given the yellow really quickly.
That one was, I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously kind of a Klimala partisan on here, but that was a real 50-50 where like a dedicated player has to go in for that,
Right.
and a dedicated keeper has to be prepared for that. I mean, not like it's anybody's fault or to say, you know, he doesn't have a right to be like, oh, that, you know, that was rough or whatever it was, but I mean, it's, you know, yeah. What did the call on the field ended up
Yellow.
being? That it was just
It was
like
quick.
it was a yellow and then
which
a
is
foul to go the other
Really
way.
Yeah,
quick,
which is fine.
because Klimala went to ground, keeper went to ground, and then the ref came over really quickly and then just like had the yellow in his hand.
Yeah.
Before Klimala even got up.
It was a genuine effort. I mean, obviously, I was going to say it's clean. Obviously, it wasn't clean, but it was like a genuine effort at going for the ball. He didn't like leave his studs up or anything. And maybe that's another moment where Moreno did better than my expectations briefly, when he was like, yeah, that's just normal forward play. Like, you just got to go for that bouncing ball, and you just miss a little bit, but nothing malicious to it. So
Yeah, I mean, I was upset because of how Morgan took the shot. So I was like pretty pissed, like yelling amongst a crowd of people yelling, but they were all, you know, calling to burn Klimala at the stake.
Right, and you were just
I
frustrated.
was yelling at Morgan for, you know, squandering an opportunity.
I thought Clement had a good first half, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, it felt like he just needed a ball, like just like one ball with an opportunity. Like I feel like he was doing all the right things, but he wasn't getting. I don't think like the service that, I don't know, like a red, like, you know, Luquinhas, like doing Luquinhas things like in the 18, I think would have given him, like, I think, you know, we would have seen a Klimala goal.
There was one play where early, I think it was the first 10 minutes, where Morgan kind of got through the back door and had like enough time to take 2 or 3 touches going along, you know, the goal line, and didn't end up putting in anything in until the last second and put it out to like the far post where there was a nobody.
Yeah, that was pretty painful.
Like pretty egregious that not only you take too many touches, but then you don't even make a deliberate ball out of the end of it. So
I remember that. Yeah.
I feel like one of those things you notice a lot, especially when you watch like Klimala play in person, is a lot of players seem to miss when he tries to do something. Did you see that particularly more often?
I don't know if I saw that as often. I mean, when I was watching, I was most fixated on whoever was carrying the ball. I think what was really fascinating to see was just like the pressing triggers and like how aggressive they were in the first 15 minutes in Charlotte's defensive like third, where
chasing down the goalie and stuff at times.
The goalie, all of the defense, all the back line, they were really feeling the pressure on the left side of like Charlotte's the left side of their defense, and you could just see I would call it out like right as it was happening to Kyle, who was like, because he was just asking about like how the Red Bulls play, and I was like, this is like textbook. You just look at these moments in this little corner and how Luquinhas and Klimala just swarm.
Klimala almost got that one.
Yeah.
If we keep doing that whole season, we'll probably get one. Arsenal got like 3 last season or this season before of Aubameyang just jumping in front of the keeper like that, and especially if we've got more teams like Charlotte or DC who are just like, we're just going to build out of the back and try our hardest and aren't really thinking too much about it. He might get 1 or 2 just from doing that over and over again.
Either he or Barlow, somebody. Yeah. It'd be a big Barlow moment. Yeah, I mean, it was frustrating because we looked really good really early, and it was like a mental thing that when we didn't score in those moments, especially I think the Klimala opportunity, like the Morgan opportunity, really, off of the 2 Charlotte defenders colliding with each other, as we just talked about. I think the team just looked flat after that. Which is super disappointing. And the way that the goal went in was just off of nothing. I mean, like it just was a game where Charlotte was bad, but they managed to just get a result at home, and we managed to just be worse than them after the first 15-20 minutes.
Yeah, this is the kind of game where if our little period of productivity dried up and then the game slugged out to being a pretty boring 0-0, I'd say, okay. So
that's an away game. Yeah.
But we can't keep it tight. Can't keep it tight. So frustrating. This time it's a little bit more, I don't know, unlucky, I guess, than others, but I do think you make your own luck.
Yeah.
Just very, very frustrating that we have a bad knack to allow shots from that area over and when I think we could just be a little bit more disciplined. I don't know if Aaron Long were available, does that help? I don't know. It just seems to be a little bit more about focus than execution.
It may, I mean, Aaron Long maybe helps in the sense of, I mean, he definitely helps in general, but being a good player, but I think helps more in the sense of being able to do 3 in the back from the start, which we've kind of remarked upon in recent episodes, how, that's kind of Struber's security blanket and his starting sort of basis that he works from and, builds out, adjusts from there and at, the half or whatnot. And, just not only does it, have more numbers at the back and just leaves the team more secure in general, but it also frees all 3 of those center backs to be able to push up, should they see opportunities both on and off the ball, and just, allows the wing backs to be getting forward more and creating more overlaps with the attacking mids, and just generally suits, the style better, which is why it's kind of been the formation that Struber's turned somewhat standard in the last few months. But, going to that 4-man back line in this game in the first half. I mean, outside of that first 10-15 minutes where the pressing was really intense, more from the front, you started to see, big gaps in that formation. You started to see, the fullbacks not really knowing, how far they should go up. And the result was kind of like, Amaya and Yearwood sitting on islands and, the forwards who had pressed high up and, forced an aerial ball out of Charlotte, eventually weren't able to recover. And it became, a real kind of kind of track meet. And, when you combine that with the heat, it was just sort of a toxic potion for the way we like to set up. And it's, ironic that it happens on the road, but
I think, was it in the OAM write-up where it was talking about like Long's value in the back line as being like the connector with the midfield?
I did not actually touch on that. That might have been somebody else.
Okay,
but
I don't know where I read that, but I felt like that was like a really obvious element that I just didn't really see.
to be able to like kind of like take charge on the ball more than like Nealis or the other Nealis.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And Edwards, I guess, is different.
Yeah,
So.
I think that what was so frustrating in the second half was the thing that you could just see so obviously was that the three forwards were all just so stranded up top, and there just wasn't any connectivity with them. And I'm not sure if having Long would have made anything better there at all. But I know that if our intent was to be playing on those wing backs and pushing them forward, I think Harper did a good job of that. Like he got a bunch of crosses in. I don't think it was they weren't really to anybody, unfortunately.
Right. And Charlotte was pretty packed in by that
Yeah,
point.
exactly. But the one thing that was so obvious is that Tolkien just doesn't do that at all as a wing back. And I think that, we would push the ball up there and then it'd get to Tolkien, and then it would just every single time the play would fizzle out.
I mean, Tolkien has his qualities for sure, but
Yeah.
I mean, he's not a wing back as much as a fullback, and he's not a fullback as much as he's kind of like a wide holding midfielder. Like he doesn't really penetrate with the ball that much. He doesn't really carry too much. When he gets the ball, he kind of stops it, and kind of looks around for what to do. And when we commented on this last year, when the ball is kind of ending up shuffled out to him so often, that can be kind of a problem, especially in games that we're chasing like this, where we kind of have to be on the front foot. It kind of gets exposed a little bit more. So just kind of a game where a lot of, the kryptonite that this team has had, under Struber throughout the pressing era, whatever you want to demarcate, kind of all had elements of occurring in.
Where is Conrado? Conrado.
Conraggio.
Buccianelli.
That's it's died out a little bit. When I want to say that there's been some tidbits about other clubs possibly being in for him now. And then there was a little tidbit that came out yesterday out of Austria that some left back who has the same agent as like Struber and Yuba Diarra and stuff like that has been tied to an MLS team. So maybe that turns into something.
Definitely in need of competition, though.
Yeah.
I think that still remains true.
Yeah.
He had a couple really good games, I think, like the Open Cup game, and then the one like either right before or after.
Yeah, I mean he's still had some really good performances, and he's had a goal, maybe two. I can't quite remember, but I mean obviously he's has his qualities. Apparently Greg Berhalter said that he's almost in national team contention, so there's that even. And obviously has his qualities, but I think for the way the team is set up right now, for what the team needs, especially in games like we saw against Charlotte, there's some stuff that's a little lacking, and I don't even know if it's necessarily something that can be coached or that's really in his toolkit to fix anyway. So it's just something you run into sometimes with academy players. Guys you can't control to an entire extent what types of players come out of your hometown system or whatever.
It would.
And sometimes there's some square pegs who you still fit into the team because it matters for all the other intangible reasons that homegrown academy players matter. So
but also it's like I think we're just looking for another option, maybe a different type of personnel. I think we've seen surprisingly Jason Pendant play a lot more minutes, I think, than we might have expected
it's all
to.
garbage time though.
Yeah, and it's also not like really showing anything like different, really. So.
Right. It would be nice to have an option that when maybe we're late into games and we're looking for more an aggressive, like line to line option, kind of like how Cameron Harper is turning out to be on the right wing. We just had that in our pocket to put out. That could be a nice option to have to complement kind of Tolkien.
I was hoping that Morgan could have even just been thrown in there. Like I was remarking probably just to myself at that point toward the second half of the game, because I was just kind of coping and just kind of talking to myself. I was like talking to Kyle, but he was like kind of just enjoying the win, and I was kind of
You're talking at Kyle.
No fucking loyalty, my God.
I know he bought me a Charlotte shirt, and I was like, I can't. I'm not wearing that, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I know, it's just like sentimental or whatever. And I was like, I won't throw it out. I will donate it. At least. But I was saying that, Morgan on the wing would have I think been just a better option when we're down 1-0 than having us just repeat that same cycle of just plays dying, at Tolkien's feet when he's kind of up near the edge of the 18.
Yeah, for all of Struber's tinkering, it's funny how he seldom seems to do things like that. Where like sometimes he'll kind of switch a system, sometimes to pretty good effect, sometimes not. Likes to bring on another striker or maybe take one off, depending on the same kind of thing. But even though we've got this player Morgan and to a lesser extent Lucchinius, who are pretty good at either being both footed or as playing inverted if they need to. We've never really like toyed around that sort of way and just saying, oh yeah, let's get Morgan and Harper on the field at the same time, or like, oh, let's get Lucchinius and these guys going to the end line.
And Morgan also not being like used, I mean, as a left back, which I think Sam, you were just kind of like asking for too, just because, even if he was right-footed only,
he started there once.
Has he?
I think he started one game there, but he's never like been switched during a game. Maybe once
he
he
started
switched,
at right back, I think, for a minute. It was, I don't know what game it was.
I think he started a game. He might have started in the Open Cup against Charlotte.
That's the one. Well, I was thinking Open Cup against Hartford because he scored his goal from kind of like that space. Yeah. But either way, like I'm just surprised.
It was when we had a bunch of COVID call-outs, I think.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But even if he was only right-footed, just like his style of play is such that you'd think you'd want to try him out even inverted from that position. Like if you tried Kyle Duncan out there, like we saw fucking last year a few times, why can't Morgan get a run out there? And especially because he can use his left foot also. So
what was the point of that? I don't know. I mean, I guess we didn't have any of our options yet that we're using now.
Back then. Well, Tolkien, I think, hadn't quite emerged yet. Like, I mean, maybe Duncan being such a calamity over there was what gave Tolkien his shot.
Right. But even just playing him so much at right back, I mean, we didn't have Dylan Nealis yet. We didn't have, we had Edwards, but I don't know. It would be nice maybe if we had somebody who had half of those minutes we gave to Duncan playing the position now rather than giving so much minutes for him to leave on a free, even though it seemed very predictable he would do that.
Yeah, that was very strange.
But that's like a second order, third order gripe. It's not really not really super important right now.
Is it worth talking about the other substitutes, or do we want to just ignore Fletcher and Clark? I feel like that's the only other thing we haven't really talked about. There's no reason to, I don't know, dive too much deeper.
Yeah, other than to say, and it's, it's not like, we're pioneering this or anything. I think it's become kind of a consensus in a lot of fan discourse is that, Fletcher just might not be, working out and might be, worth moving on in a few weeks.
What's his price tag? Didn't it come out?
Yeah, I mean, his salary would be DP level, and it would probably be at least a few mil to buy his contract outright. And apparently Watford just got relegated and are going to be championship next year and might, just want him back to play. So, right. Yeah, a lot of, kind of, planets aligning that, he might just end up leaving kind of unceremoniously in a few weeks.
It would be weird to spend basically the amount of money we would have had to spend on Fabio on him.
How's Fabio doing? What's he up to?
So there is a little bit of a tidbit that Fabio's had some issues at Mineiro since he went there, and he had a suspension recently, I believe, and it's just not really set the world on fire. And apparently is in talks to move on already, and apparently MLS is one of the options on the table. So maybe something to just keep in the back of your mind. I've recently joined Instagram. I recently joined the 21st Century.
Oh, congratulations!
In the last couple weeks, and happened to have seen on a few different like RBNY, player / coach / whatever channels, Fabio popping up in the comments like "love you guys" and like shit like that. And it's like,
wow,
yeah,
I didn't have, this is nowhere near my radar, to be quite honest. When you first mentioned MLS, I was thinking, it would really annoy me to see him.
It was actually in the Ross Haley column yesterday.
Oh, I'm sorry, I've been exposed as a unloyal. But just even before. Just like in general, I think I just would have never guessed a return could potentially be on the cards. But I could totally see, like, I don't know, DC, Vancouver, someone
DC
like
likes
that
to sign guys we just had as like just a sticking your tongue out.
They might still
thing.
technically own the rights to Gonzalo Verón.
I think they do.
I don't know if that ever expires. So that would really annoy me if even if he didn't play particularly well, it would still kind of irk me to see a funny guy like that just on another squad in MLS.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of his Nashville goal as like, oh man, we could use one of those. Just like in that first 10 minutes, just like one touch and just like bang.
Was that
it
against them?
That was Nashville.
That was the one where he like sombreroed the guy. Like
him and Klimala combined, and he like hit the shit out of it.
I think it was like Cáceres and Fernandez, like just like a little
all right
combo. Maybe Klimala was involved too, but either way, he sombreroed the guy.
I think it was. I want to say CCJ, but I don't know why. But yeah, it like in the first minute or two, we could have used something like that to take advantage of the pressure that we were.
Yeah,
putting
I mean, I really don't see anything that Fletcher brings that Fabio didn't do better, to be quite honest. So.
Right, it would be just an odd decision. Although last week I realized we sort of talked about these two things separately, but didn't put the two pieces together. At the time of recording, which was one, the sort of apparent need for a second striker, not necessarily to split time or displace Klimala, but just probably another striker is needed somewhere in the squad, between Klimala and Barlow, somewhere in that space. And Clark's return, and the potential, though, that unites these two is Caden Clark playing further up the field, more in the forward position. I don't think we really got a meaningful glimpse at that on the last weekend because it was just sort of an ugly, hot slugfest of a game. But do you think that we could see more of that in the next coming weeks?
I don't know. Cork, you go ahead.
Oh, well, I mean, we saw in the DC game before the break where he came out and played as, basically the false nine. Well, we think, I mean, one would think as, basically a false nine in the second half of that game, but it could be something that, he shakes out to be more of a traditional line leading forward than, maybe first meets the eye. He obviously has the nose for goal, whatever that kind of sixth sense is. He has it, and then he also, has a lot of the tools. I mean, he's quick, he's physical, he, has just a lot of those kind of intangible things that maybe projects him out to be, more of a number 9 striker. As he gets, older. So
just say something profane, something real gross.
Yeah,
one of the worst things that's ever been said on this show. Which is, what is it, Ramdeuter? Kind of has that Thomas Mueller lanky white boy thing going about him, where he just scores goals somehow.
Just kind of swings his legs around, and
is he good? He doesn't really look good. but he does well. I don't really get it. No, he still kind of has been out of form, that said, but his game kind of has that aspect to it where he's just kind of in the right place at weird times. So maybe we could see that kind of thing out of him. I don't know. That would be quite the revelation.
We're seeing a lot of yellow cards out of him. I feel like it's been like one a game at this point.
What do you get one for this time?
I don't remember what it even was. It was something
I can't quite
stupid.
remember either, but he does get stuck in, which, you know,
and always in a sub too. In like the last 20 minutes, he just manages to get some just like a little yellow card. But that was the only memorable part of what I saw from him, at least from where I was sitting. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe he's got that potential.
We'll see. So for those keeping track at home, Patrick Klimala equals Dennis Bergkamp, Caden Clark equals Thomas Mueller. It's official alignment chart going out. Thomas Mueller is actually how you say Caden Clark in German.
Yeah.
That's the translation. But yeah, I don't know. Obviously not a guarantee, but I could see it. I could see his game maturing like that. I think it's probably unlikely that would happen in the next couple months. Maybe he goes over to Europe one way or the other, even if Leipzig doesn't want him and he blows up over there somehow. But hell, I wouldn't complain if it happened over here. I don't know how much we want to. I mean, we can just sort of glide over this if we want, but there is an opportunity sort of to talk about just global temperature check of the club, just in terms of what this result kind of how it makes us feel about the management, just overall placement in the table. I think this is the area in particular where earlier when I said, oh, let's just copy paste our thoughts from a episode or two ago, that's kind of where this is where I'm thinking that largely, where for me it's like, yeah, in isolation these kind of results are explainable in some sort of way, but in aggregate the inability to keep tidy and the inability to nail down results at home is extremely frustrating. And it just still feels like we're stuck in the situation where we're waiting for the other shoe to drop here. And it's a familiar song, I think, for Red Bulls fans in a way as well, where sometimes it can get really tiring playing this kind of style or playing this kind of idea where, you know, everything has to go right for us to score a goal. This very much felt like that kind of game again, where everything has to go right. So sometimes I'd be able like to see the team go out and play a solid error-free set, 90 minutes of soccer, and still have a decent chance to knock one or two in. This team has done that a couple times in the last year or so. Just, I wish they were a little bit more reliable, I guess, is my temperature check on the overall direction.
I don't know that I don't feel as rough about this one. It doesn't feel like we in general feel as rough about this one as we did after the Miami game, where, I mean, not only maybe, I mean, hard to believe, but Charlotte is a more respectable team than Miami, and just all like the weird, you know, different factors that played into it that we've already hashed, make this Charlotte loss a little softer, I feel like, but it definitely does. I think it's still, you know, all the things you said there, Brit, have truth to them, and just the overarching thing of like it still doesn't necessarily feel like there's a direct relationship between good performances and results in this team. And I mean, we saw, you know, in the opening, you know, stages of this game in Charlotte, even before things collapsed, that just, you know, the team can't turn good play into, you know, output. And you know how much of that is, you know, mentality, like we focused on a couple weeks ago. How much of that is, if you want to blame specific personnel of your choice, you know, all of it, you know, whichever way you funnel it down, the general global issue is that, you know, there's no control. There's no way of judging whether, a performance was complete or not. And that's why I kind of have kept begging in Once a Metro to, for Struber to sort of nail down a starting lineup or just a general system and formation and personnel that, we can kind of judge adjustments off of here and there. So, hopefully it involves wins, but, if we can, maybe nail down some consistency on that, then, we'll be able to kind of suss things out better, both them as a team and more importantly, us as, punters.
Yeah. Because I think when I was watching at halftime and then later on in the game when they're panning to Struber, getting frustrated about things, and kind of seeing what he's talking about, kind of reading a couple posts from, I think, closer to the sidelines, kind of just talking about him being frustrated about missing some chances, more detailed things. I was sitting there thinking, like, yeah, that all seems accurate. You're not wrong, Gerhard. But for like this kind of game where we're slowly withering out there 90 degrees and clearly the mental focus is slipping. Sometimes like we need a little bit of lads at Tottenham as like a safety blanket here. Like there are going to be times where you're not going to be able to walk in and deliver your 83 slide deck thing to like fix it. Sometimes it's going to be more like gut check time. I realize I'm sounding a bit old school here, but like I don't know.
This is waning in its time, but you got to have players with that dog in him out there.
Yeah,
you just got to put the dog in you, like.
Right, and sometimes it's just not like Lucania's faded from the game a little bit. Normally that's a guy where I'd say, yeah, keep him out there. He'll create something for that. But it's games like on Saturday that you can kind of see how if him and Bernd are out there kind of like trying to give detailed notes about what needs to, be done in specific places, it might be going in one ear and out the other a little bit, where maybe he just needs to keep it a little bit more simple. And because this is a case where it would have been true if he just said to them, guys, we're a better team than these guys, man to man. All 11 of you are better than 1 through 11 of them. Stay focused, beat your man, remember your markings and your triggers, and we'll poo through. Maybe he did say this and I'm just being cranky, but there's a time and a place, and I totally agree with what you're saying. I think where this would be a great time to have a solidified 11 and sort of week to week baseline to have a sense of progress and a gut check among that group. So,
yeah, I mean, just, I don't know, the things that are frustrating me are I think part of it is mental. We talked about just over the past few, episodes about how the team can just, look so good for short bursts. And if they were able just to score a couple goals in the moments where they controlled the game, then it'd be a totally different story. They'd have that confidence going throughout the entire 90. And it just doesn't happen. But I think one other thing, just like personnel wise, I think that having Reyes back and having, I think Long, obviously back from just like, this international call up. Well, it would be nice to see Nealis, Long, and Reyes, all three in a back, three center back formation. I just think that it would be nice because I guess part of me just thinks like, how did we go? What was it? 10 plus games, conceding like 1 or no goals at the end of the season. Cause I don't know, look at the team now and it's like, all right, it just doesn't, I don't know. It's not as convincing defensively. I would love to see that from like a personnel level. And then I think the other thing too, is that like, I'm not like entirely out on Dylan Nealis. I think he serves a purpose as a utility defender. And he can do a lot of different things on the back line, which I really appreciate. But I don't know if he would be the person I would want starting on the team. And I don't know if I'd want him starting as a wing back, especially. So I just think that maybe that's something that could be improved upon if we, maybe we build out the Harper project a little bit more and see if he can be kind of more permanent as that kind of right wing back and what that looks like. But I'm not like totally, thrilled with him being kind of a permanent starter, longer term.
I would hope that the plan is for to have like, kind of a juggernaut 3-man back line with Long, Nealis, and Reyes healthy again. And then hopefully, there's a little more flexibility and choice and depth in the wingback roles where you can have Tom Edwards, out there. You can, use Dylan Nealis in a more kind of tactical or maybe fresh legs late kind of way. And, we've already gone over what can be done at left back. And I think hopefully, like you're saying, Sam, the team has felt way less secure in the back when the ball ends up shuffling through than they were last year. And hopefully that's, sort of the, what Struber and the staff are sort of banking on, is that Reyes coming back will allow them to be a lot more kind of confident in how they set up their back line in a more, consistent week to week basis. And because I think a big, not only changing personnel in general, because it has, and we've talked about how hey, Jesus Christ.
Dog break. We had dog interference. Luna's been a little crazy.
Yeah.
She took my sunglasses, and then now she's fighting Cork.
We've talked about how it's affected the attack. And I've written about how it's affected the attack and guys just not being, familiar with each other and all that, but also in the back. I mean, this is kind of like a cardinal rule that Struber is breaking, that you really have to be careful just changing your back line personnel week to week. And that's been really kind of nuts the last month or so. And it hasn't changed even with, or you would hope it's changed now that we're not playing midweek all the time, but then we're going to have Open Cup, next week anyways.
Yeah, I was looking back at the goal earlier when we were talking about the game on mute, and you guys mentioned Aaron Long earlier and what maybe we were missing. And I think maybe in addition to just his presence on the ball, I think maybe for that goal, maybe we're just missing his communication, his vocalness on the pitch, and maybe just the leadership as well. Because, it's a little bit it's a little bit over my head for who exactly is at fault on the marking. I can take a guess, but ultimately I'll be sort of guessing. But ultimately on the goal that we conceded, Bender squeezes into a little bit of space for a passing lane that was probably should have been cut off by one of the midfielders. And then Edwards, as the center back, could have stepped up a little quicker, I think, to close the space, because Nealis did have the other forward there. So there was just a little bit of slack in our shape is the point. And I can see, though, how looking at it on tape, I can see how the team can look at that and say, but like, that wasn't that bad of a screw up. They didn't really deserve to score. It was not a great shot. It was a deflection. Shit happens every once in a while. And ultimately, none of us fucked up that bad. I can totally see how that could be the conclusion, at least in the back of people's minds a bit. And it would partially be true. I would worry, though, that has happened a couple times this season, with like some of these second balls that get whipped in, some of these sort of like informal set pieces we've conceded and just messy things. And you get that attitude creeping in where like, sometimes you concede a goal that, was sort of unlucky, and it's just sort of the ball bouncing the wrong way. And ultimately it doesn't mean any of us are bad soccer players. But maybe what was happening instead last year was you had 3 center backs who were really perfectionist, leading the charge and stamping down and saying, no, we're going to cut down on any ball that gets in and not have any slack in our shape there and even allow that kind of shit to happen. And maybe that was also what was missing on Saturday a bit. Long wasn't there for reasons out of our control. Same with Reyes. Only so much you can do about it, but maybe just that sort of leadership in and out and kind of cutting off that pattern of just allowing the back of your mind to say, you know what, sometimes you give up cheapies, could go a long way. I worry that that's entrenching itself. And maybe Long can bring it back, maybe Reyes can bring it back, but also maybe just like culturally among the team, like there could be another presence there. I don't know if it's among a coach or if it's among an analyst or what that could have that more present, but I would like to see that kind of patched up, because I worry that the team is just sort of giving itself a little bit of slack and feeling sorry for itself for some of these cheapies that we're conceding that were sort of unlucky, but you create your own luck.
I don't think we're that unlucky this season.
I don't think
like,
so.
You know,
I wouldn't
like,
care.
Or like it shouldn't be like a impending feeling that we have, especially I think conceding these, because like you're saying, we create our own luck, and I don't think it's that we're unlucky in these situations that we're not, you know, like scoring on them either. It doesn't really feel like that either.
In aggregate, I don't think anyone would probably describe our season as unlucky, but I can see how if you're looking at each individual play in the film room, you could say, well.
Yeah,
usually that doesn't happen.
You could definitely, for that one instance, but in the same vein, you could look at the second half and how Cornell played really well and kept the team in it, I think, longer than they otherwise should have been in the game in the second half. So I agree, wholeheartedly on the lack of, the luck factor.
Well, this weekend, we're playing Toronto at home. A Toronto side that has improved, I think, much since we last played them. Bob's had a couple, or is their form gone down again?
They've had some issues. They're kind of back down towards the
12th,
cellar,
right?
Yeah, and I mean, remember Insigne? Remember how that was the most important thing?
I genuinely do not.
Yeah.
Is he here now? Is he gone again?
He's still not here. He's not showing up until next month.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So,
well,
they won a trophy. They won in penalties against the CPL team. Do you know how many trophies imagine if we got to play a 4-team tournament between us, New England, and like Rochester Rhinos or New Rochester Rhinos every year. We would have at least like 6 trophies just from like accidentally winning that a couple times. Oh, to be from a small country.
Yeah.
But they have one. Well, okay, sorry. No, their form looks artificially good from playing Fisherman's League teams, or the Doug Ford Memorial Tournament teams.
The Michael and Us sponsored teams.
Yeah, exactly. Kitchener Memorial, Ukrainian victims of communism teams. But
oh boy, yeah. You look at the regular season form, and they've only won 1 out of their last 7.
Yeah, they beat Chicago. So I do see the momentary increase in form that had me thinking about this. But now it seems like they're struggling a bit. However, I guess if you're looking at it from a Toronto perspective, if they beat us this weekend, that's a little run of form where they could start saying, "Hey, we're turning it around." So they're a little motivated.
They're real young. I mean, I think Bob's just playing kids right now, and just straight up telling people like, it's going to be sloppy for a little bit, but just trust me. So I don't know. It's the sort of thing that I feel like we either feast on or get embarrassed by, and there's not really any in between.
Heard that damn story before, right?
Yeah.
It's I don't even want to say it. It's the same. It's just the same. We've had the same attitude going into the last few home games,
right?
With just these bottom feeder garbage teams that we managed to stoop down to their level and not get the results that we need. But I mean, it'll be interesting. I just think that with the breaking the home winless streak, and how we go back into the home with that in the team's mind, like how much of an impact will that have on an already pretty I don't know, like head casey team when it comes to stuff like this.
Well, it is funny that they are playing the kids, but then also a nice selection of Salcedo, who's 34, Bradley, who's 34, Pozuelo, who's 30, and Osorio, who's 30 now. That one makes me feel old, Osorio being 30. I guess him and Davis are sort of same generation where they're basically my age. And I'm like, oh, okay, now he's one of the old guys. All right, fine. But then everyone else is like 18.
Yeah.
Kind of a funny little project they've got going over there. But if if Dylan Nealis plays on Saturday, he could have an opportunity for redemption because it looks like that Petrazo guy has been playing for them. He's their 21-year-old left back. And when we were up in Toronto, he kind of gave Dylan Nealis a tough time, although he didn't look like particularly, it wasn't exactly Gareth Bale at the San Siro, you know what I mean? So now that Nealis has had better form the last couple months, this could be an opportunity if he gets a face up against him to kind of show some direct improvement, and maybe he can turn the tables on this Petrasso guy. That said, I won't be heartbroken if Harper Edwards gets a chance to play out wide instead, but I'm looking forward to seeing 3 at the back, at least to start again. Maybe get some more stability out of that, if nothing else. Can't even begin to guess on whether Drew or CCJ is going to play there. I don't know if we really have enough time to open that can of worms or if we have much new to say about it, to be honest. And then I expect Lucchinius to shake off last weekend and still put in a good shift up top. I mean, I feel like this weekend should have a predictable-ish starting 10, if not 11. I feel like we should have a solid picture of who 9 to 10 of the guys are. I don't know if we can call 11, but I would hope that we're moving towards that and that we can, if nothing else, just execute another home win against Toronto somewhat easily.
Yeah, you would hope Toronto is the type of team where you can continue the way we looked against DC. Being another, Eastern Conference team rebuilding with kids. That's just kind of out of sorts right now, although Bob Bradley is no Chad Ashton.
That's true.
Hopefully that works in our favor. But I think that's about as simple as I can put it. Is just, hopefully, you can carry over the mindset from the DC game. Just forget the Charlotte game and just the weird, kind of setting and conditions of all of that. And try and, again, to repeat a theme from the episode, it's a pretty it's Tottenham game.
It's going to be a beautiful day. It's 77, partially sunny. So no water breaks, no weird heat off the turf. Everything's kind of it's there. There's no reason not to get a result. 7 o'clock.
Do we just want to do an episode on Monday anticipating the Cup against City?
I think so.
Yeah. We're late into this one.
We're gonna live stream from the arena.
Is that allowed, or will that get us sent to Disney jail? I assume anything involving media law leads to Disney jail.
That's true. Maybe we
even if Disney's not involved at all.
Well, maybe we can get Apple TV rights.
That's true. Maybe to close us out, they did announce a new league broadcasting deal through Apple TV, and as I think we've said on
sweet.
Twitter, I mean, at first I was like, Apple TV, but then I kept reading, and no more blackouts. You get a membership if you have a season ticket to any MLS club, and they're consolidating and simplifying the schedule. So as we were saying on this very show, just like a month ago, all soccer games are on Saturday and Wednesday. Even if it's on Sunday, that's Saturday. But now it will literally be true.
Yeah.
On Saturday and Wednesday, simplified, simple as weekly wraparound show on Saturdays. You're going to be able to listen to Harmon and Jolly, I think, while watching the game. No more local broadcasts. I mean, consistent listeners will have noticed, but I don't think we've explicitly ever said that we don't really like MSG, although it should be apparent that we have our gripes with the MSG broadcast. Just, I'm not sad really to see the MSG broadcast to go.
Amongst other things, the MSG has the worst mobile app I've ever used. Worse than the original Red Bulls app. Where
I only actually downloaded it to watch the Chicago game a few weeks ago because it wasn't saved on my TV, and you can't fast forward and like
No,
you can't like
No.
you can't like
Mm-mm.
go
The
to
screen-
you
the
can't
screen-
like go to another tab or window and come back easily.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Like,
It doesn't do like the picture-in-picture thing. It doesn't rotate with your phone.
Yeah.
None of the features work. It freezes and crashes. Continually frustrated with it. So I will not miss that. Amongst all the other things we've been talking about.
I'm sure they'll find with the $250 million that they're spending on this, like 20,000 people who are like, oh, cool, I have an Apple Plus or Apple TV subscription. I can finally watch Ted Lasso now.
That's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
Also, it's like, I don't know. I guess if you're an internet crank, there's the temptation to sort of like be a know-it-all and have a take about it. But from my perspective, I don't really know what's going to get people. It's not. It does not seem like if this deal doesn't work, if it fails by some sort of thing, it just puts us back to where we are. Because like, let's be honest, the status quo of broadcasting, all that stuff is basically nothing. There's not really anything to lose. Whatever failure looks like is probably just kind of where we're at now. It doesn't really seem like having games casually on over the air or old school cable is really generating long-term interest in the sport. So the fact that no more local blackouts and consolidated schedule and automatic membership for season ticket holders, I think just like from the literal experience of me trying to watch games, so much better. Because whom among us has not spent 20 minutes or the first 10 minutes of a game trying to just like fiddle around with your VPN or trying to find a good reliable stream because of blackout stuff.
Yeah, and I think just the intermediate ESPN Plus kind of edition in the last few years has been a nice, convenient thing, and I think making the whole league out of the black box, so to speak, is pretty interesting, novel approach. It does feel like, MLS likes to, pull little stunts like that with all of their commercial stuff from time to time and, take little like risks and innovations or whatever. But this is one where it's actually, I think pretty legitimate that they're, taking kind of like a big step into the future that nobody else has so far. And maybe it works, like you're saying, Brit, maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but it's at least kind of an interesting, little attempt at something different that might pay off. And, I think it'll be, interesting to see.
I'm just thrilled that the local blackouts are gone. And I think I've heard rumbles that I think either MLB or NBA has been interested in this sort of thing for a while. They sort of link this or leak this sort of idea.
They have Apple has Friday Night Baseball on Apple TV. So it's
I'm worried that they might try to make the Apple TV broadcast like funny that the way they're trying to do for Friday Night Baseball.
That was the part before Luna nipped my toe that I kind of got thrown off on. I was going to say that the drawback, one of the better arguments for a drawback that I've seen I think it's kind of an intuitive one for everybody, is that you're kind of, putting it all, into one provider or whatever, and it cuts off access maybe for more casual fans, throws away the opportunity for people to just happen upon a game, and just the general, dynamic of, pretty much all the league's media being through one entity or whatnot. And that's all legitimate, but I think also that's a little different when it's, Apple, like, kind of the biggest corporation on earth. Even if it is all kind of streamlined, it's not going to be half-assed. They're going to be kind of trying to make MLS a big deal to an extent that, somebody like, that like ESPN and Fox were never going to. And, from that angle of it, I think there's a lot of potential for it to be, generally good for the league, even though there are some of those kind of access drawbacks that I just mentioned. So that's the end of my whatever Howard Kurtz media take.
Maybe we can convince Tim Apple to convert to Islam. That way he does not allow any gambling ads or any integration or anything.
Well, I was going to say our business development team for 202 is out looking for us to fill in the commentary spot, surprisingly, for the NYCFC feeds, so that there's an opposition cast, so that people like us can listen to
like
a non-homer.
like Premier League fan zone.
Right,
back in the
exactly.
day. Yeah.
I'm surprised that the MLS never tried to force that into being here.
Maybe they do now.
I don't know if I can't really abide this emerging bit or through line here about the city thing. I don't know. If last week you were joking about working for them or something, this week
I'm coaching. Yeah. Exactly.
well,
Dale is out.
Is that official?
Really?
Yeah. So that was surprisingly prescient for me to submit my resume a week before it happened.
I mean, it didn't come out of nowhere. You read the report saying it was going to happen.
Sure, but I made sure to brush up my my expired USSF level F license.
All right. Well, I hope you don't take it personally that I will still not watch the games that they play, even if you're the manager.
But we'll still put a microphone in front of you during the time of the games.
All right.
No matter what you're doing during the day, if you're
Okay,
shopping, grocery shopping.
Could get interesting. But all right.
Well,
we're playing Toronto this weekend at RBA. Apparently it's Tops card day, whatever that means. Finally, it's a sports thing. All right, go sports. I fucking love sports. Fucking, what's his name? Jenkins. Jones.
No.
Fucking, yeah.
Bengals.
Bengals. Yeah, the
No
Bengals. I love sports. I love a good Tops card on the sports. I don't really care who knows. And then I guess we'll regroup on Monday, Tuesday, and do a show in anticipation of the Cup quarterfinal. And then we're playing another game on the weekend. So that'll be a 2 for next week. Till then, it's just Toronto. So hopefully we've got a good update in the meanwhile.
It's Alex!